Hare Krishna. Om Ajnanatimidandhasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So welcome back to Wisdom of Bhagavad Gita. In just few weeks, we have completed first 3 chapters already, and we are on chapter 4 today. So chapter 4 is entitled Transcendental Knowledge, and in Sanskrit it is called Jnana Karma Sannyasa Yoga. But Srila Prabhupada has named it as Transcendental Knowledge. There are 42 verses in this chapter, and we will complete it probably in 3 or 4 sessions. So at the end of chapter 3, in the 43rd verse of chapter 3, where actually in that section we saw last week that Lord Shri Krishna has been talking about how lust is very, very difficult to conquer. And it's an enemy who is Mahashano Mahapapma. And it is burning like fire. But it can still be conquered. It is difficult to conquer, but it can still be conquered. And he gave 2-point formula. He mentioned that the lust is staying in 3 places, in senses, in mind, and in intelligence. And he gave 2-point formula to conquer this lust, to attack it from the both sides. So regulate the senses, and then he mentioned that we have to have spiritual intelligence. We have to develop spiritual intelligence, and through that spiritual intelligence, we have to steady the mind, and thus we have to gain some spiritual strength. And only by such spiritual strength we can conquer lust. So in that 43rd verse, Lord Shri Krishna said, thus knowing oneself to be transcendental to the material senses, mind and intelligence, O mighty armed Arjuna, one should steady the mind by deliberate spiritual intelligence, Krishna consciousness, and thus by spiritual strength conquer this insatiable enemy known as lust. So he has already mentioned that we have to control the senses, and we can improve our intelligence or strengthen our intelligence through transcendental knowledge. So this transcendental knowledge is now mentioned in the 4th chapter. So it is a continuation like this. So Lord Shri Krishna wants to actually give us the transcendental knowledge by knowing that we will be able to conquer lust. Of course, we have to control the senses, and with this transcendental knowledge from both sides we have continue, then we'll be able to control the lust. So that is the context in which this has been spoken. So what kind of knowledge is given in this chapter? So this transcendental knowledge is actually, mainly it is talking about 3 things. This chapter gives the transcendental knowledge about the transcendental knowledge. It gives knowledge about Lord Shri Krishna, and it also gives knowledge about karma. So this is going to be quite a lot to read. So I'm going to make it a little bigger for all of you. So what questions are answered about the transcendental knowledge? So it talks about, this chapter mentions, where does this transcendental knowledge originate? Has it been told to anyone else before? And why is Krishna telling it to Arjuna now? And why specifically to Arjuna? What is his qualification? And in general, how should a disciple receive the knowledge? And once he receives that knowledge, what is the result? So that is mentioned in this chapter. It's a very important chapter, and it gives so much knowledge to all of us. So that is the transcendental knowledge about the transcendental knowledge. Then it also talks about Lord Shri Krishna. And what questions are answered? So it answers the questions like how to understand Lord Shri Krishna told this knowledge to Sun God. How do we understand that? And when does Lord Shri Krishna appear in this material world? What is the purpose of his appearance? And why should we know about Lord Shri Krishna? And in general, how does Lord Shri Krishna reciprocate with us? Then it also talks about karma. It mentions, like it answers the questions like, is Lord Shri Krishna also doing the actions under the influence of guna and karma, just like we are doing? And what is the difference between karma, vikarma, and akarma? So these are some of the questions which are answered in this chapter. So you can see there are a lot of questions which are answered. So why only these three topics are covered in the transcendental knowledge section? First of all, it is very simple to understand that why the knowledge about transcendental knowledge is mentioned. It is actually just to give the explain the importance of transcendental knowledge. Then who's the speaker? Lord Shri Krishna is the speaker of this knowledge. So this person is glorified. So Lord Shri Krishna is explained. For example, if someone wants to learn cricket, and then uh, if a person says that, okay, you go to such and such, say, person to learn the cricket, like Achrekar sir, you go and learn from him. But someone will say, who's he? I don't know him. But then you can explain to him that, oh, he's the one who taught Sachin Tendulkar how to play cricket. Then you know, oh, wow. Okay, I will go and learn from him. So that is why it is important to know about Lord Shri Krishna. He has spoken the Bhagavad Gita. He is the origin of the transcendental knowledge. That is why we should know about Bhagavad Gita, about Lord Shri Krishna. And why about karma is mentioned? So remember, in this theme that is going on in this section is that how to conquer lust. And lust can be conquered, or lust needs to be conquered so that the person can follow the path of Nishkam Karma Yoga. So in that context, and Arjuna is trying to give up his activity. So Lord Shri Krishna wants to explain to him the difference between karma, akarma, and vikarma, so that he understands that giving up his own activity or his duty is vikarma. So he should be doing either karma or akarma. So for in that context, this knowledge of karma is also given in this chapter. So this is why this knowledge about transcendental knowledge and knowledge about Lord Shri Krishna and knowledge about karma is given in this transcendental knowledge chapter. And by understanding this, our our intelligence will be spiritualized. And with that spiritual intelligence, we will be able to steady our mind, and then we will get spiritual strength and we can conquer lust. So that is that is what is going to be covered in this chapter. Sudharma Mataji, you had raised your hand earlier. Was that answered or?
Yes, Prabhuji. I was asking why karma is actually included in this song. Yeah.
Okay.
Prabhuji.
All right. Fine. So let us start with verse number 1. So we are on chapter 4, Transcendental Knowledge, verse number 1. Shri Bhagwanuvacha imam vivasvate yogam proktavan aham avyayam vivasvan manave praha manur ikshvakave bravit. Yes, Raghavendra Prabhuji, please go ahead. Or Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. The personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna said, I instructed this imperishable science of yoga to the sun god, Vivaswan, and Vivaswan instructed it to Manu, the father of mankind, and Manu in turn instructed it to Ikshvaku.
So this verse is explaining, so Lord Shri Krishna is explaining here that how this knowledge he has given. So it is not the first time he is giving this knowledge to Arjuna, because Arjuna may have this doubt in his mind that, oh, just because Krishna wants me to actually fight in this battle, that is why he is making things up and just trying to convince me by giving some knowledge to fight. But Lord Shri Krishna wants to explain to him that this is not the knowledge that I am just creating for you to induce you to fight. It is an eternal knowledge. I have already given it many times before as well. So he mentions that this imperishable science of yoga, he has given it to sun god Vivaswan. Vivaswan gave it to Manu. So the knowledge originates from Lord Shri Krishna. He gave it to sun god Vivaswan, and sun god Vivaswan gave it to his son Manu, and Manu gave to Ikshvaku. And because somehow or the other that chain of disciplic succession was broken, it is coming in the next verse. And that is why Lord Shri Krishna is again giving this knowledge to Arjuna. So Arjuna received this knowledge about 5,000 years ago. And in the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains that Ikshvaku got the knowledge around 2 million years ago. Manu got it around 120 million years ago. And before that, sun god would have received it. That is why it is mentioned it is more than 120.4 million years ago he has received. And the origin of all this knowledge is Lord Shri Krishna himself. So the first question is answered. Where does the transcendental knowledge originate? It doesn't originate from Ikshvaku, Manu, or sun god, or even any other devata or anyone else. That is why Srimad Bhagavatam also explains in the 6th canto, 3rd chapter, 19th verse, very beautiful verse. It mentions, Dharmam tu sakshat bhagavat pranitam navai vidur rishayo napi deva na siddha mukhya asura manusha kuto nu vidya dharacharnadaya. So there it is mentioned that dharmam tu sakshat bhagavat pranitam, that dharma originates from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Bhagavat Pranitam. And it is not coming, like dharma cannot be created even by Vidu, some learned people, or Rishis, some saintly people, or na api deva. So even demigods, devatas also cannot create dharma. Na siddha mukhya, even someone who is very perfected their life. He has achieved many siddhis, and he is mukhya, he is the chief of them. He also cannot create dharma. Nor even asuras like demoniac people or manusha, humans can create vidyadharas and charanas. So they are also other kind of devatas. They also cannot create. Only one person like dharma can come from, and that is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And such dharma, which is coming from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that dharma can only create some transformation in all of us. And that is why it is not recommended to listen to anyone and everyone who claims to be a spiritual person. So there are many people, especially in India, or actually in the Western world nowadays as well, that people are so-called spiritual people, and they will talk about various different processes by which they claim that we can be self-realized. But when we ask them where it is originating from, is it coming from some scriptures which is coming from the Supreme Lord? They say, no, I have created it. But here it is mentioned, Dharmam tu sakshat bhagavat pranitam. Dharma by which we can go back to Godhead can only come from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If it is coming from anyone else, that is not Dharma. It is said that the Dharma cannot come from Vidus, Rishayos, Devas, Siddha Mukhyas, Asuras, Manushya, Vidyadhara, Charanadayas. No one else can create it. Only the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And this Bhagavad Gita is coming from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this knowledge is the knowledge by which our hearts can be transformed. We can get purified and we can go back to Godhead. So has this knowledge been told to anyone before? So this question is also explained in this verse itself. So Krishna has mentioned that he has spoken this knowledge before to sun god spoke to sun god spoke to Manu, and Manu spoke to Ikshvaku, and now he is again speaking to Arjuna. So this also actually verse clarifies that this problem of lust has been existing throughout the humanity, even from the time of creation. If the lust did not exist, then there was no need for this knowledge to be given to sun god and then to Manu, to Ikshvaku. So Arjuna is not alone. And we all, having the kama in our heart, lust in our heart, we are not alone. This is existing in parampara. We have received it. And that is why we have to also receive this transcendental knowledge, which can counteract this lust and purify us. And this verse is also showing Supreme Lord's love for all of us. He is coming again and again to give this knowledge to all of us so that we can get purified. So he has given once, we have forgotten, then again he comes and he gives us, then again we forget, then again he comes to give that knowledge or send someone who is very close to him from the spiritual world, and then that person can give this knowledge to all of us. So he's so merciful, he's so loving that he's coming again and again to give this knowledge. So many things are like in this first verse itself, many things are mentioned. And this first section that we are going to actually talk about, like from up to around 11th verse, we will try to complete today. There are so many popular verses in this first section itself, and you will see. Okay, let us go to second verse. Evam parampara praptam imam rajarshayo viduhu sakale neha mahata yogo nashtah parantapa. Who wants to read the translation? Yes, Mataji. Devika Mataji, please go ahead.
This supreme science was thus received through the chain of disciplic succession, and the saintly kings understood it in that way. But in course of time, the succession was broken, and therefore the science as it is appears to be lost.
This is very important verse again. Evam parampara praptam imam rajarshayo viduhu sakale neha mahata yogo nashta parantapa. So Lord Shri Krishna is mentioning to Arjuna, oh Parantapa. Parantapa is Arjuna's name. So Parantapa means, oh subduer of enemies. So he's mentioning that this knowledge is passed in the chain of disciplic succession. So a guru learns this knowledge. So he is a disciple, then he learns it from the guru, and then he implements in his day-to-day, he understands it and he implements it in his day-to-day life. And then he gets realization, the jnana becomes vijnana. And this realized knowledge, because of that, he actually progresses, he gets purified. And then he becomes a guru, and then he passes on the knowledge to few other students. So that is how the knowledge is passed. Evam parampara praptam. But over a period of time, sakale neha mahata yogo nashta parantapa. Somehow or the other, this knowledge gets lost over a period of time. And Srila Prabhupada mentions what are some of the reasons why the knowledge can get lost. So the knowledge can get lost if we are not following the parampara properly. If we start doing whimsical interpretation of Bhagavad Gita, for example, the verses are given, and when Lord Shri Krishna is speaking to Arjuna, he is having a particular meaning in his mind. And then that knowledge is understood by Arjuna. But someone who is just trying to take Bhagavad Gita for their own purpose, they are trying to make money out of God's property. And for that, they are not coming in disciplic succession, but they are just trying to whimsically interpret Bhagavad Gita and give their own meaning to Bhagavad Gita. So because of that, then people in Kali Yuga don't understand what to do and what not to do. And there will be many followers of such gurus as well, who are whimsically interpreting the Bhagavad Gita. And then they can also think that I am actually understanding Bhagavad Gita and I am implementing Bhagavad Gita in my life. So that is how then over a period of time, parampara will be broken. So we have to make sure that we are receiving this knowledge only from a bona fide parampara. And that parampara has to be connected to Lord Shri Krishna himself. As we actually mentioned, dharmam tu sakshat bhagavad pranitam. If the dharma is not coming from Krishna, it is not originating from him, we are not going to get the potency. I'll give you a simple example. Say, the example of electricity. So the electricity generated in some power station somewhere, like hundreds of kilometers away in the power station, the electricity generated. And it is then transmitted through power lines, then at a very high voltage. Then it comes to a substation close to you. There the voltage is downgraded. It is a step down. And then again, that line is connected to some power poles, and the power poles near your house. Then your house is connected to that power pole. And then the plugs, the sockets that you have here in your house, they are connected to that connection. That is why when you connect some equipment, a plug into it, and switch on the electricity, then your equipment works and you get the electricity, you get the power. But someone may think that, oh, this is very interesting, that in a wall you have a hole, and in that you put your plug and you switch on this button and you get electricity. Let me try that. So he goes and buys those sockets from Maitre 10 or Bunnings, make a hole in the wall and put the socket there, and then connects his equipment there and switches on. Is it going to work? No, because it is not even connected. Even the normal power point which is connected, anywhere it is broken, like any line is broken somewhere. Either it is broken like the big the power line which is coming from generator to your substation is broken, or from substation to your home it is broken, or from home inside the home somewhere the wire is cut. Even in that case also you don't get electricity, isn't it? So anywhere, if the line is broken, then you don't get the power. So similar thing happens with this transcendental knowledge as well. It has to come from unbroken chain of disciplic succession. If anywhere this chain is broken, you do not get the potency from the Supreme Lord. You do not get the knowledge as it is. And that is why this Bhagavad Gita as it is very important. Because if you see, just after the introduction was done, on my Bhagavad Gita, it is page 31. You can see it will be around 30, 31, 32, like that page number. It is immediately after the introduction. The page, that is where the disciplic succession has been given. And if you see, this disciplic succession starts from Krishna himself. So Krishna spoke to Brahma, Brahma to Narada, Narada to Vyasa, Vyasa to Madhva, Madhva to Padmanabha. Like that it goes on till it comes to A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. He's the 32nd the link in that disciplic succession, but it is an unbroken chain of disciplic succession. And because we are receiving it from Srila Prabhupada, so we are also part of that unbroken chain of disciplic succession. So A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj's Prabhupada's disciple is my spiritual master. So he's a disciple of Srila Prabhupada, and I am his disciple. So that is how I am also connected to this unbroken chain of disciplic succession. So it is very important. I'm actually emphasizing, I'm mentioning it 100 times probably, but to emphasize that parampara is important. Just like that electricity example that we talked about, anywhere it is broken, we are not going to get the power. Similarly, anywhere the parampara is broken, we are not going to get the knowledge as it is. So the first thing that to understand from this verse, that spiritual knowledge must be received through an unbroken chain of disciplic succession. It is required, like an unbroken chain is required. Now, for unbroken chain of disciplic succession to continue, you must have a bona fide guru, but at the same time, you need to have a sincere student. So both are required. a bona fide guru is required and a sincere student is required. So, why sincere student is required? I think in the first session itself, we were talking about this topic, that a sincere student is like a fertile soil. Even if the farmer has the best of the seeds and he has done everything that he could do, but after sowing the seed, if the soil is not fertile, the seed will not sprout. So both are important, the farmer's hard work, but at the same time, the fertile soil, both are required. If any of that is not there, like the farmer is not doing his duty, or the soil is not fertile, then the plant is not going to grow. Similarly, here, a bona fide guru from bona fide parampara is required, but at the same time, a sincere student is required for continuing the parampara. So it is our responsibility to be a sincere student. We need to actually look for a bona fide guru. And the bona fide guru is simple. Bona fide guru is someone who is coming from a bona fide disciplic succession, which is connected to Lord Shri Krishna himself. And he has to follow the instructions given by Lord Shri Krishna. It is not that he's saying something and doing something else. So as long as he's following the knowledge which is given in Bhagavad Gita, then from such a person we can actually learn. So be a sincere student. And what is a sincere student? So sincere student is that hear attentively, sincerely. I do not bunk any classes. Even if for some reason, if you are not able to attend in a particular week, then there are videos, we are making it available. So please make sure that we see those videos afterwards. But it is not only seeing or hearing. We should not be stopping at that point. We should actually see all of these practical applications, like this Wisdom of Bhagavad Gita sessions. We are doing specifically in a way that how can we learn practically from these verses? So all these slides where we actually see these orange boxes with some text, these are something which we can implement practically in our day-to-day life. So not only we should hear and read Bhagavad Gita, but also try to implement these practical things that we are talking about. So be a sincere student, accept a bona fide guru, learn from Bhagavad Gita and implement that in our day-to-day life. That is how we can get purified, and that is how we can make progress in our spiritual life. So yeah, so there are a few hands up. Are all the hands up for reading, or there are some questions?
Questions.
Mantramalam, do you have a question?
No, Prabhuji, reading.
Okay, so next verse you can read. Vibhor Prabhuji, please go ahead with your question.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. So that disciplic succession is mentioned on page 30 of the Bhagavad Gita, which we have. But in that disciplic succession, sun god is not mentioned, Prabhuji. It's somehow Krishna, Brahma, Narada, and Vyasa.
Yeah, good question. Okay. So as I mentioned earlier, that Lord Shri Krishna has given this knowledge to multiple people, multiple times, eternally. Basically, there are 4 bona fide sampradayas which are there. And the 4 sampradayas are Brahma Sampradaya, Shri Sampradaya, Rudra Sampradaya, and Kumara Sampradaya. So these are like 4 universities. Because Lord Shri Krishna has given this knowledge to these 4 people. So he has given this knowledge to Brahma. He has also given this knowledge to goddess Lakshmi. He has given the knowledge to Lord Shiva, from whom comes the Rudra Sampradaya. And when he gave to Lakshmi, it became Shri Sampradaya. And he has also given this knowledge to 4 Kumaras, and from whom comes the Kumar Sampradaya. And it is not that Rudra Sampradaya, which is where Lord Shri Krishna spoke this knowledge to Lord Shiva, propagates that Lord Shiva is supreme. No, Rudra Sampradaya is a bona fide Vaishnava Sampradaya, and all these 4 Sampradayas gives the same knowledge. There may be some little minor variations, but they all worship. They are all worshippers of the Supreme Lord Shri Krishna. So these four are bona fide sampradayas, and they actually gave this knowledge in disciplic succession to others. But this parampara, which is mentioned on the previous verse, if you see, it is Rajarshayo Vidu. So, evam parampara praptam imam Rajarshayo Vidu. So, not only he gave this knowledge to Brahma, Brahma, Lakshmi, Lord Shiva, and Kumaras for propagating it to other devotees, but he also gave it to the saintly kings. Now, saintly kings are whom? As we saw in the first verse. So he gave it to sun god Vivaswan, Vivaswan to Manu, Manu to Ikshvaku. And why he has given this knowledge to them? Because they are supposed to rule the world. So if they are ruling the world, then they have to actually understand this knowledge so that they can actually make sure that they are ruling the world as per the knowledge given in Bhagavad Gita. And we have seen in the 3rd chapter as well, where it was mentioned that yad yad acharati shreshthas tattad eve tarojana. So as the great people do their activity, the common people actually follow them. And especially the rulers like kings, they will be actually looked up, like if all the praja, all the subjects will be looking at them, and whatever the great kings are doing, that is the activity that they are also going to follow. That is why it is important that all these great kings understand this knowledge and then they follow it. If you remember in that section, the example which was given was Janaka Maharaj. Again, he is a Rajarshi. So he's a saint amongst the kings. Rajarshi means Raj Rishi. So he's a Raja means king, but Rishi means saint. So he is a sadhu amongst the king. So he's sadhu amongst the kings because he is a follower of Bhagavad Gita and he has understood it properly in the disciplic succession, and then he is implementing it. So it doesn't mean that that Lord Shri Krishna has given the knowledge to sun god. It is just one of the instance of the kings that he has mentioned in this verse, but he has given this knowledge multiple times to many other people.
Okay, Hare Krishna Prabhuji, thank you.
Okay. Tripti Mataji, what question you have?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. When it says this Bhagavad Gita, it is received through the discipline succession. Again, I'm confused with regards to the timeline, because Bhagavad Gita as it is it's talking about battle. It's on the battle of Kurukshetra, and it's a conversation between Arjuna and Krishna. So, did it happen before Brahma?
Yeah,
Before
very good
Krishna
question.
gave it?
Yeah. I understand. Very, very excellent question. So, and this gives me to explain a particular point as well. So Bhagavad Gita's knowledge. So there are two things which are there in various different verses which are there in Bhagavad Gita. There are two main areas that we can see. One is the contextual verses, where because Arjuna is on the battlefield and he's saying that I do not want to fight, I'm going to go take sannyas and live by begging. So many places, Lord Krishna says that give up this lethargy and fight. So this is only contextual section. But the knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita goes beyond this context. Knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita talks about various different yoga systems. It talks about earlier we saw the knowledge about the body and soul, who's the Sthita Prajna, Karma Yoga, first we saw Karma Kanda, then Karma Yoga, then we are going to also talk about Jnana Yoga, then Ashtanga Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, and how to implement Bhakti Yoga. So all of these topics that he has talked about, this is an eternal knowledge. So when this knowledge was spoken to sun god Vivaswan, it was not the 700 verses that we are reading. The exact same verses were spoken to sun god Vivaswan. But at that time, like the main knowledge, which is removing the context of fighting and whatever, The main knowledge which is there in Bhagavad Gita, that was spoken to sun god Vivaswan. And Vivaswan spoke to Manu, Manu to Ikshvaku. But the same knowledge in this context, now Krishna is presenting it to Arjuna. So it is not that sun god was also fighting to someone and he was also saying that I'm going to go from the battlefield and the exact 700 verses have been spoken. No, it is not like that. Is that making sense?
Yeah, Dhanyavad Prabhuji.
Fine.
Yes.
Vibhor Prabhuji, you have another question?
No, Prabhuji, sorry, I lowered the hand.
Okay, fine. Okay, let's go ahead. So what we have learned till now from this verse, that we have to receive the spiritual knowledge in an unbroken chain of disciplic succession, and even while receiving the knowledge from unbroken chain of disciplic succession, it is our responsibility to become a sincere student and make sure that this disciplic succession continues, that this chain continues. So for continuing this chain, we have to implement the knowledge in our day-to-day life. And also over a period of time, once we have implemented it in our life, we should also pass it on to others. Okay. Let us go ahead. So we are on verse number 3. स एवायं मया तेद्य योगः प्रोक्तः पुरातनः भक्तोऽसि मे सखा चेति रहस्यं हेतदुत्तमम्. Mantralam Prabhuji, you
Yes,
had raised your
that
hand.
that very ancient science of the relationship with Supreme is today told by me to you because you are my devotee as well as my friend and can therefore understand the transcendental mystery of this science. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. So this verse is explaining what is Arjuna's qualification to receive this knowledge. Why Lord Shri Krishna has chosen Arjuna. That okay, this disciplic succession was broken, but why he has actually mentioned to Arjuna on this battlefield? Why not someone else? So Arjuna's qualification is mentioned. That I am telling you this knowledge because you are my devotee as well as my friend, and can therefore you can understand this transcendental mystery of this science. So the qualification for understanding this knowledge properly as it is that we should be a devotee of Lord Shri Krishna. If we are not a devotee of Lord Shri Krishna, it is not possible to understand this knowledge. Now you may think, oh, this is just some words in Sanskrit, and why we have to become a devotee of Lord Shri Krishna to understand it? For a simple reason. If you are a devotee, then you are not envious of Lord Shri Krishna. Because if you are envious of someone, you cannot tolerate praise of that other person. So suppose someone is getting praised and you are envious, then you will say that immediately you will stop them and say, hey, you are praising this person so much, but you don't know this person. I know, I will tell you all the bad points about this person. So the envy will not be able to tolerate the praise of some other person that you are envious of. So when Lord Shri Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that I am the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and I am the controller, I am the enjoyer, I am the Paramatma in your heart, all of this. So if someone is envious of Lord Shri Krishna, how will they be able to tolerate such praise of Lord Shri Krishna? And then such people, what will they do? They will say that, oh, Lord Shri Krishna is an ordinary person, or maybe at the max, he is some special person with some, like a human being with some special powers. And you and I can also become Lord Shri Krishna after we get purified. So because we are envious, we are not able to tolerate Lord Shri Krishna's praise, and we are saying that, oh, it's not that special. You can also become Lord Shri Krishna. Actually, I am also Lord Shri Krishna already because I am purified. So such people will not be able to get the essence of Bhagavad Gita. Lord Shri Krishna has said, Arjuna, you are my devotee, you are non-envious of me, you are my friend, therefore you will be able to understand this knowledge. So this is another important point to understand from this third verse, that not only we have to get the knowledge from unbroken chain of disciplic succession and be a sincere student, but we have to become a devotee of Lord Shri Krishna. As only a devotee can understand this knowledge. Otherwise, it is not possible to understand this knowledge as it is, and it will not give us the maximum benefit that Bhagavad Gita offers us. So we have to become a bhakta of Lord Shri Krishna. Then it is possible that we can understand and progress. Okay, so let's move on to the next verse. Arjuna uvacha aparam bhavato janma param janma vivasvataha kathametad vijaniyam tvamadau proktavaniti. Yes, Pamendra Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Arjun said, the sun god Vivasvana is senior by birth to you. How am I to understand that in the beginning you instructed this science to him?
Yeah. And Gunjan Mataji, you can ask the next question. Next, you want to ask a question or you want to read?
No, read, Prabhuji.
Okay, so next verse you can read. Translation. Thank you, Pamendra Prabhuji. So here, we can see Arjuna is asking a question. But this, even just this verse with question, we can learn so many things. Let us see. So he's saying, Aparam bhavato janma. So you are born just like me. We both are of the same age. So aparam bhavato janma. So you have just born recently. And param janma vivasvataha. And Vivaswan, the Lord Vivaswans, he has been born like many, many years ago, thousands and millions of years ago. So kathametad dvijaniya tomado proktavaniti. So how am I to understand that you told this knowledge to sun god Vivaswan? It's a very, very good question. So how to ask questions? So this verse is explaining to us this technique when we are actually receiving the spiritual knowledge, how to ask questions. So when Arjuna is asking question, he is not asking in a challenging way, if you notice here. So he's not saying, hey Krishna, this is ridiculous. What are you talking about? You are only like same age as me, and Vivaswan is like millions of years old. So don't fool me around, okay? How can you give this knowledge to Vivaswan? This is a ridiculous claim. No, he's not mentioning like this, because if he mentions like this, then the conversation stops. Then Krishna will say that, okay, if you do not have faith in me, then forget it. Then there is no point in speaking Bhagavad Gita to you. Then do whatever you want. Also, Arjuna is not keeping his curiosity within his own heart. Like he has this question, hey, there is something wrong. I feel that what he's mentioning, and from my understanding, how it is possible that he could have given this knowledge to sun god Vivaswan. But he's shy in asking. So he's thinking that, okay, let us not ask question. Otherwise, Krishna will become annoyed. So I will keep my doubt in my heart. But the problem with the doubt is that doubt becomes bigger and bigger over a period of time. Like it can be a small doubt in the beginning, and we think that, okay, let's ignore this small doubt and we should just go ahead. But if you ignore that doubt over a period of time, it is like a balloon. Inside the mind keeps on pumping air in that balloon, and it will become bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and one point in time it will break, and our foundation will be shaken, and we will decide that, okay, I don't want to continue, and this doesn't make sense anymore, and I'm going to give up. So Arjuna has not done any of that. He has not kept his doubt in his heart. At the same time, he has not asked the question in a challenging way. Now see the choice of words that he has used. Arjuna is asking, how am I to understand that in the beginning you instructed this science to him? So how am I to understand? So he's taking the onus on him that I am foolish. I could not understand what you are mentioning. It is not that what you are saying is wrong. Whatever you are saying, I haven't understood. So student, when he asks this question in this mood, that actually I do not understand what you are mentioning, can you please explain? Then of course the teacher is very, very encouraged that, okay, he's humble and he's asking for removing his doubt from his heart so that he wants to progress. He's not asking in a challenging way. And this is what we are learning from this particular question, from this verse. We don't want to become a blind follower, that whatever somebody is speaking, we have to just accept it. If it is raising question in our heart, be curious and ask those questions. But at the same time, we should not be asking the questions in a challenging way, but in a humble mood, we should ask question. So in this verse, Arjuna is asking this question, that how is it possible that you have mentioned this, given this knowledge to Sun God? Now, actually, we will see when we reach 10th chapter, we will see that Arjuna already knows Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So why he is asking this question? He's not asking this question for himself. You remember the interview, TV interview example that I gave some time ago, that when some health related TV series is going on, the interviewer is asking doctors various questions, that if there is a heart attack, what should we do? If there is a problem with your liver, what should you do? Or if you have some bone issues, what you should do? So it is not that the person, the interviewer is having the heart problem or liver problem or the bone problem. He is thinking that, oh, someone in the audience may have some heart problem, liver problem, diabetes, this and that. So I will ask this question on their behalf. So Arjuna knows that over a period of time, there will be some people who will doubt when Krishna says that he has given this knowledge to the sun god. So he knows this, that someone will have this problem. That is why he is now asking those questions for our benefit, so that Lord Shri Krishna will speak about himself and we will get benefited by understanding the knowledge about the Supreme Lord, and also remove this doubt from our heart, that how he has given this knowledge to Sun God. Is that clear? Let us go ahead. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Bahuni me vyatitani janmani tava charjuna Tyanaham Veda Sarvani Natvam Vetha Parantapa. Yes, Gunjan Mataji, please go.
The personality of Godhead said, many, many births both you and I have passed. I can remember all of them, but you cannot, O subduer of the enemy.
Yeah, let's read the next verse as well. Ajopi san avayatma bhutanim ishwaropi san prakrutim swam adhisthaya sambhavami atma mayaya. Who wants to read the next translation? Yes, Surananda Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Although I am unborn and my transcendental body never deteriorates, and although I am the Lord of all living entities, by my internal energy, I still appear in every millennium in my original transcendental form. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. So, Melissa Mataji, you can read the next one, and Vidushi Mataji, you can do the next one. Okay. So, in these two verses and in the purport, they are very beautiful. They are long purports, but I will highly recommend that you read the Bhagavad Gita properly. So, here we are actually just covering the main important points. But it doesn't mean that you should not read the purports by Srila Prabhupada. Actually, those purports are giving much more knowledge than what we are able to cover in this limited time. So I highly recommend that when you get time, you read the Sanskrit words, the translation. If it is possible, you can also read the word-to-word translations. But if not, at least the verse, translation, and purport. These things we must read. So there is, in these two verses, if you read properly, then you will see that Lord Shri Krishna is explaining the difference between himself and the living entities. So what is the difference? So Lord Shri Krishna is eternal, and it is mentioned that he remembers the past, present, and future. he is mentioned as Achyuta. Achyuta means infallible. He never forgets anything. Now, conditioned living entity like all of us, we are also eternal. We saw in the second chapter when we were talking about we are spirit soul, we saw that we are eternal. But the difference is, even though Lord Shri Krishna and we both are eternal, he doesn't forget, we forget. So this is one of the main difference. Then Lord Shri Krishna remembers all births beyond because his body does not change or deteriorate. So our body is changing and deteriorating. Over a period of time, we are going to die and then we are going to take another body. Hopefully not. Hopefully we all go back to Godhead. But in generally, the living entities, they will give up the body. And because this body is changing, we forget. Lord Shri Krishna appear by his own will. But whereas the conditioned living entity is forced to appear by our karma. This is also important. It is like a prime minister sometimes goes and visits a prison. So when he's visiting the prison, he comes at his own will and he goes at his own will. It is that the jailer is not going to stop him. But the prisoner cannot think that, oh, prime minister is here and he's coming and going on his own will. I will also come and go on by my own will. No, it is not possible. The jailer is going to keep you in the jail for the required term. At the same time, the prisoner cannot think, or sometimes if he thinks that, oh, PM is in jail, prime minister is in jail, I am also in jail, so I am a prime minister. So similarly, some people think, we may laugh on this, but Lord Shri Krishna has come in this material world. I am in this material world. So I am also God. So he is God. I am also God. I am just covered God. And over a period of time, when I get purified, I will also become God. So this idea is as foolish as saying that the prime minister is in jail. I am also in jail. Hence, I am prime minister. But there is another way people think, that prime minister is in jail, I am in jail, I am a prisoner, so prime minister is also prisoner. So it is like saying Lord Shri Krishna is in material world, he has come to material world, I have come to material world, I am a ordinary jiva, so Lord Shri Krishna is also ordinary jiva. So there are two kinds of problems. One problem, or one kind of foolish people think that we are at the level of Krishna, and the other kind of foolish people think that Krishna is at the level of us. But in these two verses, Lord Shri Krishna has clearly mentioned the difference between us and him. He is eternal, he never forgets. We are eternal, but we forget. He remembers all births because his body doesn't deteriorate. We forget because our body keeps changing and deteriorating. He appears by his own will and he goes on his own will, but we are forced to appear by karma. His body is transcendental. It is not that like our body is material, but Krishna's body is not material. It is not, it is made of this 5 material elements. His body, there is actually no difference between his body and self. His body is spiritual and he himself is spiritual. But in our case, the soul is spiritual, but the body is material. So this is the reason why Lord Shri Krishna can remember everything. He is completely spiritual. He is not dying like we die. He appears and he disappears. And Srila Prabhupada gives a very wonderful analogy in verse number 6, I think. In 6. He gives like Lord Shri Krishna's appearance and disappearance, he compares it with sun rising and sun setting. So when sun is rising, we don't say that the sun is born. No, sun is already there. It had gone out of our sight. Now it is coming again in our sight. And then when sun is setting, it is not saying that the sun is dying or sun is now dead. No, it had just gone away from our sight. The sun always exists. Sun is eternal. Sun always exists, but it is just going out of our sight and it is appearing in front of our sight. So similarly, Lord Shri Krishna also appears and disappears in front of our sight. Are there any questions? Those raise the hands which are there. Yeah, please go ahead.
Body is transcendental when they say. Then there is a story behind when Lord Krishna was lying below the tree and the arrow hits his little finger and then he goes goes
A
to
good
heaven.
question.
So,
Yes. Yeah,
so
there is, of course. So there is this story, and which is a true story. It is not that it is a made-up story, but the understanding is made-up understanding there. Now, what happens is, now the same Lord Shri Krishna, he has killed big demons when he was like a small baby, and he has single-handedly fought big armies of Jarasandha. 18 times he has killed like many Aukshahini army of Jarasandha single-handedly. So, and he has in Mahabharata war as well, he was not fighting, but there were so many arrows which were coming and hitting him. But he did not die or anything, nothing happened to him. But at the same time, he has to actually appear and disappear as well. So there has to be some situation that he creates by which he can actually create this scene. For example, Amitabh Bachchan is in a movie, and at the end of the movie, the hero dies. So it doesn't mean that actually the real Amitabh Bachchan has died. Just in the movie, he was acting, and he has finished his time pass, not pastime. He has finished his time pass in that movie for all of us. But Lord Shri Krishna also has to finish his pastime and has to disappear. So he creates some situations like this. So those who do not have enough faith in him, then they will actually get bewildered by this pastimes. So it is mentioned that when he wanted to finish the pastime, at that time there is one arrow particular hit his toe, the big toe, and then he gave up his. He finished his pastime and he disappeared. And there is also a story behind that, but this is not probably the time to actually cover all of that story. But in short, it is appearing and disappearing. The person who could kill many Aukshayani and many army and many big demons will not get killed and die just because one arrow hitting his finger. Okay. So these are the differences between the Lord and us. Now let us go to next verse. This is a famous verse. 7th and 8th. Actually, 7, 8, 9. All three are very famous verses. So let's read 7 and 8 together and we'll see.
Prabhuji,
You have a question?
yes, Prabhuji.
Okay.
Prabhuji, even though the Lord is transcendental, but when he comes into this material world, correct me if I'm wrong, does he take that material body?
No.
Because that he left behind.
No. He doesn't take any material body. So he comes in his fully transcendental body and he leaves in his fully transcendental body. He doesn't leave his body behind, which we need to burn or bury or anything like that. Because he doesn't have a body which is made of matter, which is made of these 5 elements. In fact, the 5 elements are controlled by him. So Prakriti is controlled by him. So where is the question of he getting controlled, because this body is controlling us in a way. So where is the question of he getting controlled by the 5 elements?
Because there was one story that I heard where it says in Lord Jagannath, the heart of Lord is still there.
Yeah. So heart of Jagannath is a different matter. It's a So let us not get into that Jagannath story here. So this Navakalevaram every 14 years or whatever like particular years, when the new deity is made, then this particular heart of Jagannath is moved, but it is a different matter. Okay. let us go. It is 8:29. Looks like we should. Okay, let's stop here at verse number 6, and then in the next session we will continue from 7 onwards. I wanted to cover till 11, but that's fine. They were good questions, so we could cover them. So, what have you learned from today's session? Are there any realizations, reflections, or comments or questions? So, all those people who have put their hand up, Melissa Mataji, you have something to share?
Yeah, I enjoyed learning about the origin, and also about the different sampradayas.
Yeah, 4
Can you
sampradayas.
please, the 4 sampradayas. One of them was Rudra, and then there's the Kumaras, the Sri Sampradaya. What's the other one?
Yeah, Sri Sampradaya. And the
Yep.
most important one, which we are getting the knowledge from, is the Brahma Sampradaya, which is coming from Lord Brahma. So Lord Brahma means it is not originating from Lord Brahma. It is Lord Krishna is the origin of everything, but he is the first student.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Vidushi Mataji?
Hare Krishna, Guruji. One should receive the spiritual knowledge in unbroken disciplinic succession, and one should be a sincere student. And one should ask, so one should be a devotee of Lord Sri Krishna to be able to understand the knowledge, and one should ask questions in a non-challenging way, so in a way that says that I don't understand, as opposed to challenging the person who is speaking. And one should always ask the doubts instead of keeping it in their heart.
Yeah,
And the
very
differences,
good.
and the
And that one
differences.
should be we.
Sorry.
So that one that you are talking about, one should do this, one should do that. It should be I should be doing this, I should be doing that.
Absolutely, yeah, definitely, I should be doing that. And
Otherwise,
the difference.
after learning this, we will keep this in mind. One should do that. That one is us. Yes, I understand. I'm just joking.
No, absolutely correct. And then the last point was the difference between Krishna and us. Krishna is eternal, transcendental, and remembers past, present, and future, appears at his own will, and living entity is not eternal, forgets, and it's controlled by the modes, and does not have a control on the way that they appear, or the way that I appear.
Okay, nice. Mahendra Prabhuji?
Thank you, Prabhuji. I got a question actually.
Yeah, please go.
So for that verse 4, you mentioned about Arjuna asking the question. So it's really nice to understand how to ask questions. But my question might be foolish again. Was Arjuna in a condition to understand or to think about what will happen after the years, or what will happen like over the years, whether people should get this knowledge from Lord Krishna? Because he was mainly worried about the fight and whether I should be fighting or not. So that question was specific for him to understand it, or was it for the others to understand Lord Krishna's knowledge?
Yeah, excellent question, Mahendra Prabhuji. So whether this question was like as we discussed, as the acharyas have explained, that is it for Arjuna himself to understand, or is it for someone else? This question will be answered very soon, like probably not very soon, but during the Bhagavad Gita, when we actually come to chapter 10, where Arjuna clearly mentions that he has already heard about that Lord Shri Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and not from ordinary people. He's saying that I have heard it from Narada, Vyasa, Asita, Devala, so many people that I have heard from, that you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But now I have heard from you yourself. So he knows for sure that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And all these questions, of course, we may think like this, that whether he is asking, or it is also, the thing is that Krishna wants to give this Bhagavad Gita to all of us. And in this particular situation, though Arjuna is a pure devotee, Lord Shri Krishna is controlling his senses. So because Lord Shri Krishna is controlling him in a way so that this Bhagavad Gita can be spoken, so this question is also inspired by Lord Shri Krishna, who's sitting in his heart as Paramatma, by which Arjuna can ask this question and Lord Shri Krishna can give us this complete knowledge to all of us. Right?
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you, Prabhuji. If you allow, I can ask maybe one more question out of
Okay, please go ahead.
curiosity.
Yeah.
About these 4 sampradayas. That's fantastic to know. So just curious, like when the knowledge was passed on to Goddess Lakshmi or Lord Shiva or those 4 Kumaras. So is it like around the similar time or during the past times or?
Yeah, it is during the pastimes at different times. It is not that he called all of them together and the knowledge was given. It was not like a classroom session which was done for everyone together. No, in different pastimes, the knowledge was passed down to them.
Okay.
And
Hare
those
Krishna,
sampradayas actually still exist. All these 4 sampradayas still exist, and in their chain of disciplic succession.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Sannivas Prabhuji?
Prabhu, we are in which sampradaya? So we are Gaudiya sampradaya or
No,
Madhva?
Brahma. So our sampradaya is actually Brahma sampradaya, but we call our sampradaya as Brahma Madhva Gaudiya sampradaya because if you see on that page, there is Madhvacharya, who is one of the prominent acharyas, which is coming in that Brahma sampradaya. That is why it is called Brahma Madhva sampradaya. But then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also appeared in the sampradaya, and that is why it is also to acknowledge that it is also called Brahma Madhva Gaudiya sampradaya. But if you have to just talk about the 4 sampradayas, then it is from Brahma sampradaya. But if you want to specifically say, then it is Brahma Madhva Gaudiya sampradaya.
So we are related with the Brahma sampradaya, right?
Brahma sampradaya, yes.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Sannivas Prabhuji, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dandavat
Hare
Pranam.
Krishna. Dandavat Pranam.
Prabhuji, you explained very nice point. The guru has to come from disciple succession, and also the student has to be very sincere to listen and to understand and ask. So if this two is happening only, then the knowledge can pass. That was a very nice point.
Yes, thank you, Prabhuji. Raghavendra Prabhuji and Mataji?
Hare Krishna Prabhu. My question is, and that's for sampradayas. So, among the, are we treat them all kind of equal? Why some are not prominent?
Yeah, good question. So, when I'm saying that with bona fide sampradaya, and if there is a sincere student, then the disciplic succession will be passed like the continue, and the knowledge as it is will be there. And by following that knowledge, we can get purified and we can go back, which is completely true. So in all these 4 sampradayas, if like the knowledge as it is passed in an unbroken chain, and we can find like some guru is there who is coming from this unbroken chain, and he is giving this knowledge as it is, then the disciple will be benefited from it, and they will still be able to go back to Godhead. It is not that only in the Brahma Sampradaya, or especially we are talking about ISKCON currently. So it is not only the ISKCON devotees are going to go back to Godhead. It is not there is some exclusive offer Krishna has given to only ISKCON devotees, that only ISKCON devotees are going to go back to Godhead. No, we are we can actually go back to Godhead if we are sincere and if we are following the parampara properly, because we are part of one of the bona fide sampradayas. And Srila Prabhupada has made it very easy for us to, by giving some practical process of sadhana, how we can actually in day-to-day life, the knowledge can be actually put into practice. And because of that, we are able to purify ourselves, and we can realize that we are getting purified over a period of time. If you continue to follow this process, we will realize that, oh, this particular way that earlier I was behaving, now it is different. So this process, we can actually see that it works, and that is how we can understand that this is a working and practical process. So of course, the other bona fide sampradayas also, they can continue doing that. And why particularly this Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya is prominent? Because we are fortunate to have Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appear in this Sampradaya. And he is Krishna himself appearing 500 years ago. And he's a Yuga avatar. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is a Yuga avatar. And he came to spread the Yuga Dharma of this Hare Krishna Mahamantra. By chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, we can get purified and we can get love of Godhead. So because he appeared, like Supreme Lord himself appeared in this parampara just 500 years ago, and he has propagated it, and his followers also like Srila Prabhupada has propagated it all over the world. That is why it has become very prominent. But that doesn't mean that other sampradayas people cannot go back to Godhead. They can also go back to Godhead. Okay.
Just adjacent question, very quickly, Prabhu. So, do they also have a disciplic succession happening, or is it broken in their sampradayas?
Yeah, we cannot comment on other sampradayas because I haven't studied. But I understand that all other sampradayas are still continuing, Prabhuji, their disciplic succession. But I wouldn't be able to point out the exact people who are the current followers who are coming from the disciplic succession. But my understanding is all 4 sampradayas are still continuing in proper disciplic succession. Okay. Any other quick reflections before we stop today?
One quick reflection, Prabhuji.
Yes.
You also learned that there's a difference between the contextual verses in Bhagavad Gita and the core knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, which contains different yugas, body and soul, yuga system. So that's also something which might be important to read.
Yeah, that was a really good question by Trupti Mataji. Yes, that's correct. Yeah, all right. So thank you very much for sharing all these various different points that you have learned. But I would just sincerely request that be a sincere student. Please try implementing few of those at least in our day-to-day life, and then make our life successful. One should make our life successful. Isn't it, Vidushi Mataji? One should make his or her life successful. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Srila
Hare
Prabhupada ki jai.
Hare
Srimad
Hare
Bhagavad
Krishna,
Gita ki
Prabhuji. Thank you.
jai. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.